Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you live from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this Tuesday, March 12th, 2019. It's about 4 minutes past the hour. Hope you're all doing well, no matter where it is you are in the country, whether you're here in the tri-state area or anywhere else. As we do every Tuesday afternoon around noon, I join you live here on Facebook and TheObserver.com to discuss this week's news and newspaper. And we start off this week with the front page story, which has a headline of Great Day, Green Joy. It was the St. Patrick's Day parade, the annual West Hudson St. Patrick's Day parade on Sunday, March the 10th, just passed. And I'm going to make this a little bit larger here, and it will cover me. You'll be able to see. We had a couple of photos here. The first one is of the St. Columkille uh, United Gaelic pipe band, which leads the parade just about every year. And then in the bottom photos, this is a great picture of Maddie with her grandparents, Steve and Christine. Couldn't resist that picture. And then, of course, in the final picture, it's Jane and Len Mackesy. And were all an integral part of the annual parade. It's unfortunate because it was not as well attended, I think, this year as it has been in the past. And where I stood over by the corner of Bergen and Kearney Avenues. There wasn't that as many people there as there would normally be. Maybe it was the weather. I don't know what exactly caused this to happen, but it was certainly not as lively as it normally is. But still, a great job nonetheless by the organizers. Kevin Quinn and his group put together a wonderful parade every year. Spirits were very, very high, and it was great to see so many people who certainly I only see on a not too often basis. Now, it is unfortunate too, though, that during the course of the year, I guess one of the other reasons maybe is that there wasn't much advertising this year. I'm not sure why that was, but unfortunately, that's what it was, and we really didn't know too much about what was going on. But that will happen, I guess, on occasion. So hopefully, we can improve that in the coming year, 2020, which I think will be the 47th annual parade, if you can imagine that. As we move along into the inside of this week's edition of The Observer, this story was about a musician named Nicky Fabs. He is a great and talented guitarist and musician. He'll be playing on St. Patrick's Day in Pete's on Frankie Rogers Boulevard in Harrison. And we have a profile of him and his musical career and how he got to where he is now. It's very interesting. He's played at the Stone Pony and some other very well-known venues, and he will be in Harrison at Pete's on Sunday this week. Moving on to page number 4, St. Michael's Medical Center in Newark is one of only 6 hospitals in the state to receive a 5-star rating. The specific program that analyzes hospitals. So if you would, take a look at that, and you'll see that of all the hospitals in the state of New Jersey, St. Michael's Medical Center was one of only 5 in the entire state to receive this designation. Moving along on to page number 5, this was one that I have to tell you that in my career, I've had so many opportunities to interview so many interesting people, but this will be at the top of my list of more enjoyable stories to have covered. But it's kind of sad because it came at the expense of the death of Sarah Stern, who was a 19-year-old girl who was murdered in Neptune City in 2016. But as it turns out, the assistant prosecutor and the prosecutor who did the most work on this case clearly was Megan Doyle, who is from the town of Kearney originally, and many of you know her mom, Councilwoman Carol Jean Doyle in Kearney, and of course her dad, the late Norman A. Doyle Jr. It's so sad that he's not with us anymore. He died way too young. But Megan handled the prosecution as one of the assistant prosecutors, and she just did an absolutely fantastic job to convict the defendant in this case. And I won't give away too much in the story, but I do hope you will check that out. It was just an awful situation where she was strangled by her friend, and 2 of her friends, including the one who strangled her, throw her off a bridge on Route 35 in Neptune City and into the waters of the Shark River in Belmar. Just a terrible situation, but fantastic job by Megan Doyle to convict this guy McAtasney is his last name, and just getting to talk to Megan was great. She has already been interviewed by 2020, and that was on the air a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I highly suggest you go to abc.com and watch it. It's on for rebroadcast still. And she's also done an interview already with one of my all-time favorite journalists, Keith Morrison of NBC Dateline. And Morrison has, of course, he's very well known journalist in NBC. So I hope you'll get a chance to check that out. I'm not sure the date of that yet, but I know that they've already recorded the interview, so it's ready to go. It's just a matter of when they're going to broadcast it. And Megan also said, I think Inside Edition is also going to be doing a segment on this case. Very interesting, because when it all happened, she didn't realize, I don't think many really did, that it was going to be such a nationwide case. Not only was it nationwide, across the globe, people were talking about this. So congratulations to Megan Doyle, and of course to Carol Jean Doyle, having a daughter who is such a wonderful representation of the town of Kearney. And I thank Megan for taking the time to fit me in as well. I like to be in the same company as Amy Robach, and Keith Morrison is certainly a thrill for me. This week's editorial is a little bit about the 12 women who I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. We have a special section in this week's edition of the newspaper of 12 highlights of 12 women who have made a difference in our local community. And I will get to that in a few minutes. But if you get a chance, we certainly call out some highlights in the editorial this week as well. I'm going to skip back to this because this headline is not the original headline that Karen Zordick wrote with her police blotter this week. And I changed it because the first entry in the Kearney police blotter just kind of made me scratch my head. And what you're seeing is real. I'm going to make it a little bigger just in case you can't see it. A woman was charged with shoplifting for underringing $4.49 in merchandise at Walmart. Now, I could understand if somebody didn't charge $4.49 in merchandise, just in general. But the thing that's interesting and perhaps annoying about this story is that she had $142.13 worth of merchandise that she paid for. And yet they still decided to go after her for underringing $4.49. I'm going to tell you, listen, I'm admitting it. I've shopped at Walmart before, and I've gotten cases of water at Walmart, and I put it on the bottom of my cart. And there have been times where I have walked away without putting it onto the conveyor belt. Then I realized, oh crap, I better go back. I got to pay for this. It's not much money. But here's an example of what was in our editorial last week about how how the resources of the Kearney Police Department are being stretched so thin because of what's going on at Walmart. $4.49 in merchandise, she underrang it. Just give her a break. Let her go, for crying out loud. Don't require police officers to come over there and take her in, because they have to take her in. Even though it's just a summons, they have to bring her into police headquarters. So again, that takes cops off the streets for a certain period of time, and all over $4.49 in an underrang transaction at the self-checkout center. It happens to the best of us. Not everybody is a criminal. And unfortunately, just another example of how Walmart's got to do a better job of policing itself in general. As we move along here, this piece is about a young woman who is a 16-year-old sophomore at St. Dominic's Academy. Her name is Megan Dunn, and she was the Miss Colleen in the annual Jersey City St. Patrick's Day Parade last weekend. And she lives right here in town. She's a fantastic student. She's doing very well for herself. Very, very bright girl. Received a 4-year full scholarship to St. Dominic's Academy. Not an easy task to accomplish at all. I think it's called the St. Thomas Aquinas a scholarship that she got. But great job from Megan, and congratulations to her and to the Dunns, a wonderful family from here in Kearney who have raised such a wonderful young lady. We have a feature now as we move along here about what's going on at the Harrison High School culinary program. And this is something new where they've brought in chefs from local restaurants and have taught the kids the specific type of cooking that these restaurants offer. This particular one was a Chinese restaurant, so the kids learned how to make dumplings and egg rolls with a chef who owns a restaurant in Harrison, a Chinese restaurant. And so we have a nice feature about how they do this and how the kids are really excited about learning to cook. It's a great alternative. You know, when I was in high school, there were no programs like this at all for people who necessarily didn't need to want to go to college. There was always this sort of thing. It's either you're going to college or you're not going to college. But for anybody who wasn't going to college, they didn't offer anything really. You know, there was just a bunch of crap. So this is great to see. The culinary program at Harrison High School and Kearney High School as well is very extensive, and it's really, really nice to see that there are members of the community who are reaching out to participate in this program. Of course, the sports section here, I'm going to blow this up a little bit so that you can see it. It's hard to believe it. The season is very long. You know, I'm not a soccer fan, and you can forgive me for that. As I welcome Pat Miller, who is here. Millar, I always mispronounce your name, Pat. I apologize. Thanks for stopping by. The soccer season's beginning already. The Red Bulls will be opening up, I think, next week, and they're the defending Eastern Conference champions. Jim Haig went to the media day, so he's got a story about that. And he also has a feature in his Sports View this week about the Paramus Lyndhurst Hackensack Hockey Co-op. Yes, three high schools combined into one. That's something that they do when there are no programs for a specific sport in certain high schools. They'll do this co-op and they'll combine schools. So you could have, as you see here, you know, some of these kids will have teammates from Paramus and Hackensack in Lyndhurst. It's pretty remarkable that they do this. But it's great that kids are able to participate in sports that they otherwise wouldn't get when they are in high school. As we move along into the inside of the sports section here, there is a bunch of other things here that you can check out as well. But I missed something here, I think, unless you only had two. I'm not sure if Jim. Oh no, I'll get back to the rest of sports because it's sandwiched by the special section that I was mentioning to you here. And this is, of course, our women in business and special women who live in our community and who do so many great things. The first few here on the first page include Bernadette Antonelli and her daughter, Brianna, who are at Arlington Tax and Bookkeeping on Kearney Avenue. Evelyn Pizzola, who is a longtime employee, but her husband Frank owns Frank's GMC in Lyndhurst. And of course, Evelyn was the first ever woman elected to the Board of Commissioners in the Township of Lyndhurst. Kathleen Riley from Brady and Riley, the law firm on Kearney Avenue. She's been at this firm for 12 years, but she is a distinguished attorney and one who can practice before the United States Supreme Court, a very, very high honor that she got last year at the beginning of the year. We actually featured Kate on the front page of the Observer last year when she was bestowed this special honor to argue before the Supreme Court. Dr. Maria Dominguez and, of course, her sister and her sister's best friend are the triumvirate that make up Pink Vision in Lyndhurst. They also have an office in Fort Lee as well. So, of course, for your eye needs, Dr. Maria has been a wonderful addition to the Lyndhurst community for many years. She gives back in so many ways. She's invested a whole lot of her own money into the practice to improve it and to make it state of the art. Wani Wong is the owner and proprietor of the Intrinsic Cafe on Midland Avenue here in Kearney. It's such a neat cafe, and she owns one in Newark as well, and she says that she saw an opening here in Kearney with all the redevelopment and wanted to open one up. So I'm telling you folks, if you want to just get out and get a cup of coffee or a Danish, I'm sorry, it's Intrinsic Bakery, but it's somewhat of a cafe. Check it out. It's on Midland Avenue between Elm and Devon Streets on the southwest side of the street. So check that out if you get a chance. Intrinsic Bakery. And she's got a great setup and also free Wi-Fi if you want to just go in and do some work there as well. It was great to interview Wani and all of the women that I did. Sandra Castro is an accountant at Vista Services in Lyndhurst with her partner, Jose. They have been together for the last couple of years and run a wonderful business together. And I hope you'll take a look at that as well. Sandra, I got to be honest, getting a chance to interview everybody that I did for this section was really an honor for me, and it was great to get to hear some of these stories. I know every person in the section, but there were so many things that I didn't know about over the years, and I'm sure you will learn that as well. That these are truly wonderful and pioneering women in their respective fields, no matter what the field is, and it's certainly a diverse one. Moving along, Donna McClure is the proprietor of Happy Time Daycare in Kearney. What started out as a tiny business has grown exponentially. So many of her former students, as she would call them, are either working for her or they are working for school systems around. So many teachers and daycare workers have come through Donna's loving nurture and nurturing care and concern. So I hope you'll check that out as well. Barbara Condon is the owner and proprietor of the Condon Funeral Home right here in Kearney at 684 Kearney Avenue. And she has been running the business on her own for 40 years this year. It's almost impossible to believe that. Since 1979, that Barbara took over as a recent graduate from Mortuary College. And she continues to run a top notch operation on Kearney Avenue. And I'm proud to be able to call Barbara my friend as well. So I want to make sure that that's out there. And I want to make sure that there's no anybody gives an opportunity to say that I'm being biased. I will tell you right now that Barbara has been a friend of mine since I was a wee lad, and I'm very, very proud to call her my friend. Naomi DePena is a councilwoman in the town of Belleville, and she is also a proprietor of a business with her husband, which I believe it's martial arts, but I don't want to be quoted on that. But it's for all sorts of children, any children in the world. They do fantastic work there, and I hope you will check that out as well. But Naomi is also a very young and very, very wonderfully spoken councilwoman in the township of Belleville. She won last year in what I think some people might have thought was a surprise. It wasn't really much of a surprise to me, but she is a very, very strong voice and an ally for people in the township of Belleville, and I think you'll enjoy learning a little bit about her story. Jane Souza and her sister Sue have been running for many years the Thistle Fish and Chips, which of course was once in Kearney but made its way north into Lyndhurst several years ago. One of the reasons was parking, and they are still open and they are still doing incredible, incredible fish and chips business. And I'm happy that I'm going to be going over there sometime this week. It's been a long time since I saw Jane and Sue, but they continue to just be the model for fish and chips. But they have so many other things on the menu too, so I hope you'll check that out. Dr. Andrea Harper is our neighbor. She's right across the hall from our Observer offices here. She is an ophthalmologist, and she's been in Kearney and practicing in Kearney for 18 years. She has a wonderful story, a wonderful background of all the different schools that she went to get to this point. But we see her every day here, and it never ceases to amaze me how many of her patients come in and out and just speak so highly of her and the wonderful work that she does. She says that she has a wonderful staff as well who take care of her patients. You can test that out if you ever go for ophthalmological work, and you can see just how great her staff indeed is. And finally, Doreen Catania, I never pronounce her name properly, is also in the world of finances for many, many years. She's also a very, very well-known financial planner who can do just about anything. And whether it's from taxes or to planning your future, retirement, kids going to school, college funds, anything of that nature, you name it, she can do it. So those are the first 12 women in business that we have profiled. We will be running a section like this again on March 27th with a March 19th deadline. So if you are a woman or you know a woman who would be very much in benefit with a highlight like this, please ask them to call us 201-991-1600 or send an email to Lisa at theobserver.com so that we can get them featured in the March 27th edition of the Observer. But again, the deadline for the next one is March the 19th. So don't delay. Get get that taken care of as soon as possible. This is a young man by the name of Doug Eddard. He's of Nutley, goes to Bergen Catholic High School. He is this week's Athlete of the Week, so I hope you can check that out. Another one of Jim Haig's epic stories, as he does every single week here. As I just pass through the rest of the paper, which you can get online right now at theobserver.com, this week's obituaries. Just continue moving along here. This is our real estate section this week. And this is a St. Patrick's Day advertising promotion. And let me just run through, if I could, some of the businesses that were involved in this week's St. Patrick's Day program. Of course, Centani and North Arlington will have a corned beef and cabbage special on St. Patrick's Day. But they're always doing great things there at Centani. Same thing for Pete's in Harrison. As we had mentioned earlier, there's some very live performances. Nikki Fabs will be there on St. Patrick's Day as well. At JK's Boathouse in Belleville, $5 fish and chips every Friday until Easter, because as you know, if you are Catholic, you can't eat meat on Fridays during Lent, so don't get caught eating any meat on Fridays. Go to JK's Boathouse for fish and chips. And then, of course, rounding out the other two places in the St. Patrick's Day promotional guide this week is Picnic in East Newark and Cork Wines and Spirits in Harrison. This week's classified section is 2.5 pages long. This is certainly the biggest classified section in a very, very long time. But whether you are looking to rent an apartment, whether you have a job that you need to advertise, if you need to get help with a handyman or any type of things that we have here, check it out this week. It's the most extensive one in many, many years, and it's great just on a personal level to see this continue to grow on a weekly basis. That's because Lisa has been working her butt off. I don't know how she ever sleeps. And of course, the business directory is here as well. It's course tax time, as everybody knows, since you have to file your taxes by April the 15th. And of course, we have here a whole bunch of people who work extremely hard in the business. Every single one of them in this section are certainly worthy of your business. And at the end here, of course, this is what we call a jump page in the industry. It's the carryover from the obituaries and from the story about Megan Doyle. Jump meaning that it goes from one spot to another spot in the paper. So that's what that's called. If you're ever wondering what it's called a jump page. And this, of course, is an advertisement for Bolivia. And last but not least, Kosher Realty. Better Homes and Gardens, Real Estate, Kosher Realty with John Kwapniewski at the helm. It is 26 past the hour. I have spoken for 26 straight minutes, and I don't have much left in my throat. It's starting to. Will you excuse me while I just take a sip of this coffee real quick? Hang on. I don't realize when you can talk, it does start to get raspy after a while. But that's basically it for this week's edition of The Observer. Again, great job with the, of course, the women who are important in this area and the St. Patrick's Day Parade. To everybody involved, you all did a great job. And it's, as always, for me, a pleasure to be here with you, as I am every Tuesday at about 12 o'clock. Of course, if anything breaks over the next few days, I will join you. And Friday afternoon, Lisa and I will be taking our next journey at about 3:30 p.m. to Harrison. And we're going to go by all of the places in Harrison that if anybody moved out before, let's say, about 2006 and hasn't been back since then, you're not going to know what you're seeing. You're going to be looking at a town that you don't remember. So if you are from Harrison, or if you know anybody from Harrison who hasn't been back in a long period of time, please do us a favor and ask them to join us Friday at about 3:30 when we go down into the redevelopment zone off of Frankie Rogers Boulevard and show all the new buildings that people aren't going to ever recognize. We're also going to take a drive over by Red Bull Stadium as well, so that people who have not seen that will be able to see the arena there where the Red Bulls play all of their home games. So I'm really looking forward to this. So again, if you know somebody who hasn't been in Harrison, let's say since around 2006, they're not going to want to miss this because it will be one to behold. So that's Friday at 3:30. From the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com, that'll do it for now. Kevin Canessa signing off, and I hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. It's going to be 60 degrees on Friday. If that's not enough to celebrate, I don't know what is. Take care, everybody.